At Designer Shoe Warehouse, we believe that shoes are an important part of, well, everything.
From first steps to first dates, from all-nighters to all-time personal bests.
From building pillow forts to building a life.
For all the big and small moments that make up your whole world, DSW is there. And we've got just the shoes. Find a shoe for every you from brands you love at brag-worthy prices at your DSW store or DSW.com.
Why are there ridges on Reese's peanut butter cups? Probably so they never slip from her hands. Could you imagine? I'd lose it. Luckily, Reese's thought about that. Wonder what else they think about. Probably chocolate and peanut butter.
The Amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey, and welcome back for this Saturday series episode. I'm thrilled that today I've got Catherine Hickland. Now, remember, I said to you earlier in the week when I interviewed the producer of the Hulu doc-series about the heist involving the ruby red slippers from The Wizard of Oz, I actually know a person who owns the ruby red slippers. There were 4 pairs, and I know a collector that owns a pair. And I wanted to bring that episode to you today because I've already mentioned I know them. I thought I would love to introduce you to not only her, but the story behind the ruby red slippers. So Catherine Hickland, again, is my guest today. Not only is she a celebrated actress, she's got a celebrated career that spans more than 4 decades. She's beloved by millions for her starring roles on Knight Rider, Texas, and the Emmy Award-winning One Life to Live. She's also the owner of catcosmetics.com. She created a color cosmetics and skincare line designed especially for women over 40, especially after all those years working on sets. She is also one of the few professional female stage hypnotists and mentalists in the country. And that in itself is so fascinating. She dazzles audiences with her rare combination of wit and intelligence, captivating mind power. She is also the wife of Todd Fisher, and they are passionate collectors of Hollywood history. They have curated an extraordinary memorabilia collection in their home that includes treasures like Princess Leia's costumes from Star Wars, stuff from Singing in the Rain, and the iconic ruby red slippers from The Wizard of Oz. Now, Todd Fisher, her husband notably, is the son of Debbie Reynolds and the brother of Carrie Fisher. Debbie Reynolds was a legendary American actress, singer, and dancer, best known for her role as Kathy Selden in the 1952 classic film Singin' in the Rain. She had a long career in Hollywood, also known for her stage performances and her TV work. You may remember her from Will and Grace. She played Deborah Messing's mother. Carrie Fisher, her daughter, was an actress and hysterical writer and novelist, most famous for playing Princess Leia in the Star Wars franchise, successful author, and a mental health advocate as well. Carrie Fisher died on December 27th, 2016. She was 60 years old, and she suffered a heart attack a few days earlier while on a flight. Debbie Reynolds died the very next day on December 28th, 2016, and she was 84. Her cause of death was a stroke. Many people close to her said it was brought on by the grief of losing her daughter. So, what a great privilege to not only hear Catherine's interesting life story, then you get to hear from Todd Fisher about their incredible collection. And I'm excited when I go to Las Vegas, I'm going to get to go on a tour of it. I have seen the video inside. It's like old movie projectors and stuff from Singing in the Rain, like the raincoat, and it's all at their house. Isn't that crazy? So I wanted to bring to you the story behind the ruby red slippers in the documentary series and then interview the person that I know who actually owns a pair. So here's my interview with Catherine Hickland and her husband, Todd Fisher. Here we are today, and I first want to just applaud you for your great success. And you have really lived such an interesting life and have such a great career, and I'm thrilled that you're with me today.
I'm really happy to be here too. And, it's so funny because when you say I have an interesting life, or I don't know what you just said, maybe a successful life. And, for me, success comes in so many forms, and it's about being happy most of all. And, so I am. And I love everything I do. And people always ask me, why do you work so hard? Why do you push yourself? And it must look like I'm pushing myself to them. I don't feel like that because I do love everything I do. And I think that that's the secret, isn't it? Is you love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not work. And it is very true, that saying. And so I am very grateful for all of the things I do and gifts that I have, and that I cared enough to use them.
Well, so let's start from the beginning. You're from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and you're one of 3 kids, and your parents are both in the dental industry. And I know you went to Florida Atlantic, but you end up as a flight attendant and then get to Hollywood. If you had been interviewed at like 12 years old, what would if someone had asked you, like, what is your big dream? What would you have said?
Oh, well, I knew that from the time that I was 4. I mean, there was just no other thing that I wanted to do. I was the only one that wasn't going to college, so I had to put in a little time somewhere. I only went for 1 semester because from the time I was 4, the lady that was taking care of me while I was growing up, her name was Eloise. And while my parents worked, she would take care of me, take care of the house. She would put me down in front of this little black and white television, and she would iron and just put me on a little blanket, and she would watch her stories, which are now called soap operas, of course. And I think that if I had to say who I owed so much to, it would be Eloise, because not only did she take care of me, instill in me her values, which were great, but she also inspired me. And by the time I was 6 in front of that little television set, I had well decided that that's all I ever wanted to do, was to be a soap opera actress, make people feel the way people made me feel when I watched them when I was little, and be in a story that never ends. That was my goal in life. Now, Fort Lauderdale back then was a little swampy town, not the metropolitan city it is today. So people kind of laughed at me. And I think that happens to most of us, when we have lofty dreams in a small town. And but I didn't. I didn't doubt it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but becoming a flight attendant was exactly how I did it, because I had to figure out how I was going to get from that small town to either New York or Hollywood, where soap operas are made, and study acting and create this life. And that was the only way I could imagine getting out was becoming a flight attendant, because then I could fly for free and I could get myself situated and then have enough money to quit. And that's exactly what I did in 6 months. Yeah, I lasted 6 months. Yeah.
But was it that you were in a commercial, which kind of got you on screen? And that first project that you worked on, was there somebody behind the scenes that said, like, you have it? Or was it really just a fundamental belief in yourself?
Yeah, I never had anybody say those words, you have it. I know exactly what those words mean, and I know it when I see it myself in people. But I think it was just a fundamental belief, and not only in myself, but something greater than myself that would see me there. And that I can't really tell you. I did work for Evel Knievel when I was 17 as an assistant, and I think that he was hugely influential because I was already a dreamer, and he was a dreamer, and he was a visionary, and he was a daredevil, and he taught me to be a daredevil of life. And so everything I see that I want to try to do to become really good at it, it's just at the end of the day, it all comes down to, do you believe it? And if you do, then you don't need other people to believe it. You only need the people that will hire you to believe it. You know what I mean? But as far as other people, because other people always want to try to tell you what you can't do. They always want to try to, and it's just them projecting their fears onto you because they didn't go do something they wanted to do. Yes. That's what I think,
Well, the one thing that stands out for me, whenever Megan brings a cat story up, it's this complete fascination that I think you were manifesting things before there was a term for it. But really the kind of person that said, I can do it. Like, I can make it happen. And so for someone who's listening who wants so badly to do something in their life, like what's the first step in order to do that?
Knowing what you want is the first step, because you would be shocked at how many people, when I say, well, what do you want? And they say, I don't know. Especially when I do hypnotherapy with people once in a while. I'm more of a performer in hypnosis, but I do hypnotherapy for people that are recommended to me or by a friend, because people get stuck, and you have to find out where that stick came from. Where is it that they stop at a certain point, or don't believe in themselves to past a certain point, or are afraid, because fear is the basis of everything that holds us back. So, it's just trying to figure out, but you can do this for yourself. Why am I afraid of this? Why don't I want to do this? We don't ever stop to ask ourselves why. We just feel the feeling and then let it be. But if you can just scratch at the why do I feel like this, and just be in the stillness of yourself, you can really get to the answer. Oh, I just remembered that so-and-so said that to me when I was, hey, that's probably it. Is it true? No. Because my work and my shows, the whole theme of that is to inspire people to believe in themselves and what they do. But first you have to know what you want so that you can move towards it. And a lot of people truly don't know what they want. So that's the first step. Second step is, can I do that? Do I know how to do that? Will I be good at that, or am I good at that? If the answer is yes, then okay. I'm in the back of the theater. I'm by myself. There's all these rows in front of me. At the end of the rows, there's this giant screen, which is big picture. But I'm going to have to move up a row first. I can't go from here to there because that's what I think overwhelms people.
Well, when you get to begin your career in entertainment and you become a soap actor, what was the thing that surprised you about that industry?
I don't know. Isn't that interesting? I can't really say. I didn't meet one of my heroes that I grew up watching. When I first got to Los Angeles, I was visiting a set, Columbo. Do you remember that show at Universal Studios? And I was visiting a friend that was guest starring that week on the show, and it was a night shoot. And I was there, and then was just starting acting classes and everything else. I wasn't even on a soap yet. And I saw one of my favorite actresses that was on that show that I grew up watching. And I was so excited because she was a big star of that show. And I just felt like I knew her because I watched her every day for so many years. And I went up to her and I was like, oh my gosh, I've watched you forever and I think you're great. And it's so exciting to meet you. I was genuinely feeling that way. And she was so not receiving of it. She just oh, go away, kid, you bother me kind of feeling, and I just remember saying, what's it like, and she said, well, I hope I'm not on it too much longer. And the way she said it, it was just a startling thing to me. And she's still on that show. So
wow.
Let's think about that. Okay.
Yeah.
And, so I guess that she didn't get her wish because she wanted something else. That's all I ever wanted. So when that happened for me, I began to make new dreams. And so that's how the Broadway thing came along when I was in Les Mis and studying voice. And, even though I was in my early 30s and my own agent was saying, it's not going to happen. You don't start singing at 32 years old or 30 years old. You don't start singing lessons and end up in such a strenuous musical. But I couldn't hear that because in my mind, I don't believe in that. My husband and I both believe that there is no can't. And so you just have to find it within yourself to say, oh, I can, and I'm going to. And if I don't want to, that's up to me. If it doesn't happen, I'll be okay too. What's the worst thing that can happen? That it doesn't happen, right? So it's okay. We are we're in especially a society today, I think, with social media, that it's even worse because there's such a standard that you have to live up to in such a false world, because everybody's so airbrushed and everybody's so, got all these apps to fix everything. And so the normal person now doesn't know that it's okay not to be perfect, because that's what makes you unique, is your imperfection. And so, it's very hard, I think, harder for kids today, because they don't form long-lasting relationships, and deep, meaningful relationships with friends, with people, with potential partners and spouses, because they don't ever really have a meaningful relationship, because everything on this phone is so superficial. So I think that, that's harder for kids today. And why I love when kids come to see my shows, because it really is, the last 6 minutes of my show is just all about empowerment and how to get from here to there, and the mindset that you have to adopt for that, and how this is so incredibly powerful that once you learn how to use it, you just aren't even going to believe how much easier it is. That's how I really feel.
Is your AI built to work with your business's data? IBM helps you integrate and govern unstructured data wherever it lives, so your business can have more accurate AI instead of just more of it. Get your data ready for AI at IBM.com. The AI built for business. IBM.
Taking on a DIY job around the house is the ultimate summer project. But if your DIY home security system is a beware of dogs sign, when your real pet is Princess the cat, that's safe-ish. To be actually safe, help protect your home with a DIY system from ADT. It's easy to install and gives you virtual assistance from ADT's technical support team. Best of all, you can tell everyone in the neighborhood you set it up yourself. Don't settle for safe-ish this summer. DIY with ADT instead. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
When you became an actress, what was that like for people to feel like, because soap actors live in this weird vortex where there's such a part of people's week, there's such a part of their schedule, that it seems like that line gets blurred a little bit, where they really feel like they know you and you are the character. What was that like, kind of going into that world?
Well, the character I played for the last 12 years was on One Life to Live, and she was such a what great character, but very mean and very devious and very clever and the whole trick to her was always figuring out how to bring humor to that role so that people love to hate me, not just hate me. And yes, I did feel the consequence of that character when I was in public and things. But even today, now, when people see me or come up to me, and because that character was quite iconic on the show, and I just really don't know what it would be like. You know what? I was sitting with friends one night at dinner during this show, and we were sitting outside at a cafe in New York City, and people came and they were like, they stopped. They wanted to ask me a lot of questions, talk about everything. And my friends weren't in the business. And so as these people left, they said, doesn't that bother you or annoy you? People interrupt you and you're like, you're in the wrong business if you don't like that, because we are in the people business. Mm-hmm. And so, no, I didn't even know really what life was like before that, because I had done that for so long. And so it didn't, and I like people. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I love people, because I do. The trick is loving them when they're not lovable, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think people would be astounded to know that not only you appeared in Knight Rider, but you married David Hasselhoff, and the actor's persona was Michael Knight, and then you married Michael E. Knight. Isn't that trippy too?
Well, it's more trippy to everybody else than me, because I never stopped to really think about it. But here's the weird thing. I remember when I was married to David, I was sitting in bed one Sunday morning and I was looking at the Los Angeles Times, and remember they had all the movies taking up a whole page in the entertainment section.
Yes.
And I said, look at this. And he said, what? And I said, there's a movie called Date with an Angel, and it's starring an actor named Michael Knight. I remember this.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, really? And I said, yeah. How about that? And he didn't think of it. He didn't even really like pay attention to that. Then some years later, after we went through our divorce, I moved to Italy for 2 years. I always like to say I ran away and joined the circus. It was fantastic. So it was like I went a broken winged bird on the side of the road, and I came back. I am woman, hear me roar, because I had 2 years of, having to learn another language. Now everybody there probably speaks English. Back then, it wasn't so, and so it was just one more thing for me to say, I can do this. And, not even like why.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I have to, and I will, and learn the language. And when I came home after 2 years, I was a different person in a really glorious way, because I had to survive in another country. So the Michael Knight thing, when I came back from Italy and I met Michael Knight, he was visiting Los Angeles, and I had a birthday party to let everybody know I was back in the country. And he showed up with somebody visiting from New York. And when I opened the door, I said, well, and who never knew. I mean, I didn't imagine in a million years. But it's weird. I feel like when I was walking up the aisle with David Hasselhoff in real life, God went, not that one.
Totally.
No.
Abort mission. Get out while you can. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, but I don't have anything bad to say about him because, it's so long ago. It's like someone else lived that part of my life and I watched it. That's the weirdest part.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that like your life's in chapters and it's just like it was at the beginning of the book and you forgot about it?
Well, I think when I really realized that and felt that way was when I hadn't seen him in so long. And we were both at the same event in New York. Polly Bergen is a friend of his and she was a friend of mine. And she was doing a cabaret at the Carlisle. And I didn't know he was there, but I walked in and sat down. I was sitting with Dominic Dunn. He was my dinner mate. Oh, he was awesome. He was so incredible. And it was after the OJ trial wrapped up. So you can imagine like it was... and it was interesting, but he was fantastic. He always made you feel really special. But David saw me when I got up to go somewhere and he was like, oh my God, because he hadn't seen me in years. They arranged it for us to see each other without all the circus of everything, in a room. We hadn't seen each other in 10 years, maybe more. And when we sat there talking, he knew all these things about my life. And that I remember having that feeling like, how does a stranger know so much about my life? That's how many
disconnected.
I think I had disconnected, but I also think I had lived so much life in those 10 years that I was a different person.
I'm sure. That's a great way to look at it though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I think they harbor feelings of regret, perhaps for someone that they were with years ago. But the truth is we do evolve. We are different people. And even if it was love at one point, it would be a different sort of relationship because you have so much more of an enriched life because of your experiences.
And every experience brings us to where we are at this moment, and which I think is the most important thing to remember. And do you like where you are at this moment?
Yeah.
And know that if you don't, you can change it. And that is true.
Well, in the meantime, you build Cat Cosmetics. I mean, you're truly kind of a creative force. You touch things, like we've said, you believe in something, you make it happen. I feel like every time I get an update on you, it's like, oh, she's added this to the portfolio. And then you marry Todd. So walk me through what happened in between Michael Knight and then meeting Todd.
So I met Todd. I saw Todd, let me just put it that way, across church in 1980.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He and my friend Henry started a church. Henry was my pastor. Now he's my friend. And they started a church kind of for entertainers because they started it at Todd's house in the living room. Then it moved to the Debbie Reynolds studio. I was in the church choir. I was on a soap opera at the time called Capital, married to David. And so I would see Todd at church. He was married. I was married. I remember thinking, sigh.
Oh, yeah.
Did, because he was cute as could be. He loved the Lord. I was like, how come I can't have a man like that?
Oh.
I mean, because my marriage was already starting to crumble.
Mm-hmm.
But I started to think about back then what I wanted out of a man. And that little seed came to pass 40 years later, because here I was, single, not dated in a year and a half, quite happy, started a new career as a hypnotist. And then Henry, the guy that I was just talking about that started the church with Todd, he was helping me because I was doing my first show off Broadway. I was taking it from Vegas to off Broadway, my first hypnosis show. And he was doing all the multimedia for it. And Todd is his best friend. So Todd called in the middle of the night while we were working on things for the show. And that he's like, what are you doing? And my friend said, well, I'm working with Catherine Hickland on her new show. Do you remember her? And Todd said, sort of, the name. And so he looked me up on Facebook, and his wife had passed away maybe a year before that from cancer.
Oh.
So everything was lined up, and it always has to be timing, no matter what. It really does, because for everybody to be available emotionally, physically, it just lined up. And he started to write me on Facebook, and I was scared, because when I say scared, I mean, again, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? I don't really date anymore. That kind of scared, like what's happening here? Then we met each other, and that was it. That moment, that was it. I was married to Michael Knight for 17 years, and he was really good at letting me be me. And that's really hard in a relationship. I think that's how you know that somebody's a quality human being, is when they just let you be who you are, and you let them be who they are. That's hard to find.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible. But so when I met Todd, we started doing everything together. We discovered that we liked being together. We liked creating things together. We liked being together. And I support his dreams. He supports my dreams. And, this is why I think it works so well, is that we really get each other and respect each other. Nobody else I'd rather hang with, I guess you could say.
Very important. And people will be thrilled to hear that he has this great family. And what was Debbie like, and what was Carrie like?
Well, I loved and was very close to my mother-in-law, Debbie Reynolds. And that was a huge loss. And one of the things I loved about Todd was how much he loved his mother, because I think that it's a big deal.
I agree.
It's a very, very big deal. And if you are with somebody a man that doesn't like his mother, resents his mother, all that, it's just you have to be careful, because, that will bleed into your lives. And so when I met him and saw how much he loved his mother and his sister, I thought, this is great. This is a good sign. So Debbie was awesome. She was funny. She was a wise old owl. She was hilarious. She was a broad. She was a lady. She could do it all. And I admired her since the time I was a little girl. I saw her in a movie called Goodbye, Charlie, when I was about, I don't know, maybe eight or nine or something. And I stayed at the credits at that age, because I was with my dad, to see who played Charlie. And it was Debbie Reynolds. And then who would ever guess, that all those decades later, that would be my mother-in-law. But she was, and I can't even talk about her in the past tense, because to us, she's still here, because we constantly are talking about Debbie and on our show, and she's still very much here for us. Carrie was complicated, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's just that it's true. I didn't know much about mental illness or bipolar or what people struggle with until being in this family and seeing that close up with her. And I came to understand very much why she became a symbol for people that do suffer mental illnesses, and that she was a hero to them, because she was able to be successful in her life and struggle so mightily with it. So, I really admired her. She was very, very funny. You never knew what you were going to get with her because of the moods. But I learned very much how to navigate around things and how to understand, how to have grace. And it was a journey, because it's when you don't know anything about that, you don't know you don't know what you're looking at. So she was an influence on me in that regard that taught me so much about patience and understanding. And actually, Debbie was the one that really did that, because she would explain all that to me.
Mm.
If Carrie was having a bad day and I was on one end of it, the next day I'd be on the end of a really good day for her. It was very confusing. And then once I understood that that's the nature of the ups and downs and highs and lows that they have to suffer through, and it is because they don't feel in control of it. So Debbie really helped me to understand that, and it made me enjoy Carrie a lot, after that, because it didn't matter to me which mood she was in.
Church's Smokehouse Chicken is back, and the block already knows what's up. The new Smokehouse Rub hits every piece of that juicy half chicken with bold, smoky flavor that goes straight to the bone. Nobody else does it like Church's. Our recipe served up just for you. Get it in original or bring the heat with the spicy rub. Dial it up Texas style with a honey butter biscuit and a spicy jalapeno pepper on the side. The new dry rub has everybody talking. Lose yourself in the flavor of Smokehouse Chicken, starting at $5.99. Order online or in store, only at Church's. Price and participation may vary. Tax extra. U.S. only.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
There is something about you that is very similar to me as an outsider to Debbie.
Yeah? Let me hear.
There's a sparkle that you have that's similar to her. And there's just like a joyfulness, like a joy of life that it seems like she had that. And I could see how you would remind Todd of that part of her.
Well, I think that's pretty insightful of you because I really think, and no one's ever really said that to me before, but she and I connected deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And she called me the daughter she never had, even though she had a daughter. It wasn't a slight.
There's like a twin soul kind of element to it.
Yes, and so it's very deep, your depth that sees that, because that's exactly the way it was. Even though I've never thought about it until right now, but I always felt like I looked like her.
Mm-hmm.
When she was younger, we have a lot of similarities.
Very much so.
Yeah, and she was. She went through so much in life. That's what makes a person deep, too, is look, I know that it seems like I'm just like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I do it. And I've had a very, charmed, successful life. And I'm not going to deny that. I have had a very good life, and I have a very good life. But there's always been times too, just like my mother-in-law, where I sat in the kitchen with my head in my hands in a time that was not going so great, or going through a horrible divorce, or, something like that. I have had plenty of that. And really, we're all going to do that, because life is a high risk sport, and that's going to happen. But, it's just making your mind up that that's not where you're going to live. It's not a nice place to visit, but you got to deal with it and get past it and move on and move up and move forward. And that's really where that old mindset of mine comes from, because I know what that's like.
Mm-hmm. The biggest, funniest thing this week is that I did a documentary on the ruby red slippers. And I said to the director, I know someone who owns the ruby red slippers. So tell everybody about this extraordinary collection that you guys have created in your own home and how that all happened, because it's not just that, it's a lot of memorabilia.
My mother is the one, obviously, that began collecting. When I was a young teenager, the MGM studios were going out of business. And she felt this panic to save Hollywood's history. And there it was, being sold to the four corners of the earth, even to Halloween costumes, famous costumes that you would otherwise needed to be preserved. So she really went out of her way. And one of the most important criteria for this was this film really well loved? Did it win an Academy Award? Was it nominated? These sorts of things became, how do I choose? Well, obviously The Wizard of Oz is a no-brainer. Although when the movie came out, it really wasn't very successful.
Right.
It certainly did not win any awards. But she knew at that point, this is like 1971, it was already iconic at that point, and she knew it had to be saved. Now, she made a deal with the head of the wardrobe department to get a pair of these ruby slippers. In fact, even at that moment, there were 5 ruby slippers actually at that. Wow. It could have been brought up for auction, but the auctioneer, David Weiss, he didn't want to auction them off. So he just auctioned off the one pair. And my mother made a deal, sort of, we'll call it the back end deal, to acquire another pair. Now, at the same time, she also acquired what was called the Arabian slippers. Now, those slippers were used only in the first 2 weeks of the movie. And then that sequence, the whole 2 weeks, was kind of shelved because Buddy Epson was poisoned with the silver paint, and they replaced him. And they decided to redo her costume and her hair and a lot of things. And those slippers, Adrienne had to redesign to the ones we now know. But the ones, she thought that was a cool story. So she actually ended up with both pair at one point. We had 2 pair of ruby slippers. And, she could have bought all of the ruby slippers. I remember her saying to me at one point, I could have bought several of these at that moment, but they were all beat up in her mind. And she's like, I'm buying for a museum. I want the
Good
ones
quality.
that look the best. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, now look, in hindsight, in 1971, nobody was thinking screen worn, literally worn, beat up even, is probably going to be more valuable than what's in perfect condition. I mean, nobody knew that. Okay. I don't care who you were. Nobody knew that. So, but in her mind, she's thinking display. So she's not trying to buy the ones that were beat up the most because those are the ones, obviously, that Judy danced in the most. So now you could think back and you'd say, gee, could have had a V8. We should have had maybe those as well. She never regretted that, though. I have footage of her with these slippers. She loved these slippers. They were her slippers. I grew up in a very large home. We could have had the home full of Hollywood memorabilia. At one point, we had 3,000 costumes, not including props and furniture and everything else. There wasn't a poster, no costumes, no nothing in display in our homes ever, until there wasn't going to be a museum. We built a museum in Vegas for 5 years, from 1993 to 1998. We tried repeatedly to build other museums before that and after that. It just never was to be. She tried. She was turned down by everybody you could think of for this museum and was never able to get it done. But she had the foresight to save so many things. We still have several hundred costumes. I have a significant Star Wars collection because I kept things. I kept all my mother's costumes. She didn't even know why.
He wouldn't let her sell them.
Yeah, she said when she was doing the big auction, we were like, well, we should sell all these. And I'm like, nah, I think I'm going to keep these. They were mine, by the way. She started me collecting her costumes when I was about 20. So she really didn't have a full say-so in that and tried to fight me on it. She said, what are you going to do with them? I said, I don't know. And we actually have 2 other costumes of my mother's from Singing in the Rain. I have all of her Molly Brown, a lot of her movies. In addition, Carrie started understanding what we were doing and got me some things along her journey. And then I bought recently the metal bikini of Carrie's from Jedi. So we've been adding to things when it's really relevant. So when you come into a museum, you could see, my mother had a Maltese Falcon, for example, that was given to her by Warner Brothers. So you might see the ruby slippers, the Maltese Falcon, carries weapons and her costumes from Star Wars.
Todd, what's the one thing you would love people to know about your mom and your sister?
I think people, I would like them just to accept what their eyes told them. It is what it is.
Yeah.
My mother was really what you thought she was. I get questioned all the time about this. And I would like it, what you saw is what you got. That's who she was. She was really this loving, genuine, giving person that literally would give you this shirt off her back. She just loved and wanted to entertain everybody. And this is what this one's all about too. Since she was a little girl, she wanted to entertain people. Mm-hmm. Even though Carrie did have drug issues and had bipolar, she was my mother's child. She was my sister. She was very much like my mother in the qualities that she had.
We have a show on YouTube, a YouTube channel called Cat and Todd Live. And it's a show that is dedicated to old Hollywood, the glorious, years of incredible talent, films. Debbie and Carrie are celebrated weekly and by everybody that watches the show, and as well as we are. We give away things. We have, we can do giveaways and memorabilia, and then we have our stores, Debbie Reynolds Studio, the Debbie Reynolds Studio Store.com, where we share things because collectors, there's people that are just starting out as collectors. Maybe they don't have a lot of money yet. Maybe they, don't have any pieces yet. Maybe they have a lot of pieces. So we have something for everybody there to begin collecting, because collecting is such an incredible thing. Mm-hmm. When you come to Las Vegas next, you have to come see the museum.
Oh, yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
And my 30 animals.
I know. That sounds so nice too.
Yeah, it is. And, I just, I love living there. It was a good choice for me when everybody told me, and I left New York to go live there, because I didn't want to act anymore. I didn't want to, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I'm 39 years and I just thought I have no unmet dreams here. So what can I do? Because I don't want to just retire. Mm-hmm. I don't do nothing well. I don't do nothing well at all. So, so that's, it's a wonderful place to live. It's getting kind of crowded now. It's growing.
It seems
really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you never know, but that's so great for us so far. Mm-hmm. I hope you come and see it.
Well, tell everybody where they can follow all the things that you're working on. And I feel like there are so many. So give us the rundown of where they can follow everything that you have going on.
Okay, great. So, CatherineHickland.com is my tour for this year is over, but I'm doing a show in Las Vegas in February. It's a new show. It's autobiographical, and I will have all that on my website when the time is near, and all that. And I'm a mentalist too. I've started studying mentalism about 7 years ago, and of course, for those who don't know what that is, it's mind-to-mind contact. It's a thought reading show, mind reading show, and it's really awesome. So my new show is autobiographical with that to further the stories along. And so CatherineHickland.com is where you can go to find out if I'm performing anywhere near you. And I am going to be coming to Los Angeles to try the new show out before I do it in Vegas. So I'll let you know about that. Also, Cat and Todd Live is our YouTube channel. If you want to join us on Saturday nights, we have a beautiful Patreon. If you're a fan we have archives of things that have never been seen before, family things and other things. Old TV shows that are so awesome, that Debbie did. We have so many cool things. And then catcosmetics.com is my makeup and skincare company, and that's cosmetics.com. Now, what I love is, that I started a company 24 years ago that was meant for women over 40, because back then nobody ever, and even until recently, in the last, handful of years, did people pay attention to women over 40 in the beauty business. But I was on television. I had the best of everything, and it wasn't good enough. It wasn't making my skin look good. It wasn't, so that's how that company came to be. I just thought, okay, I'm going to sort of hire a chemist and make stuff for myself based on this, and just tweak it and make it better. Then everybody on the show wanted it. So that's how it actually became a company. And here we are 24 years later. I still think I do it better than anybody as far as women's skin looking amazing, in every way, whether skincare or cosmetics, because it is a tricky thing to bring skin to life, into the eye and on camera. Very doable. And it certainly is part of the loving yourself aspect of my life.
Well, I'm just so grateful for your time. What a fun story and what a life well lived. And you guys are just so sweet together. And I'm grateful for your time.
Well, you know what, Kate, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on the show. And we're so excited to do it from here, because this is the challenge, right?
Yeah.
But we're happy to be here. Thanks for having us. And just to your listeners, I want to say there is nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. And those are the magic words. You have to put your mind to it.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guests, Catherine and Todd, and remind you how important it is to make sure that you click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Make sure you join the Facebook group, Reality Life with KKC. Check out the bonus episode this week. I just did one on the legal maze behind surrogacy. I give you a story from Wired, and then I also tell you about my experience working for a client that specialized in fertility law and how they ended up being arrested. So make sure you listen to that. You can get that on Patreon, but also on Apple Podcasts. My what to watch list is at katecasey.substack.com, and follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KKCCA, TikTok, it's at KKC, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at KKC.
Shopify's point-of-sale system helps you sell at every stage of your business. Need a fast and secure way to take payments in person? We've got you covered. How about card readers you can rely on anywhere you sell?
Thanks. Have a good one.
Yep, that too. Want one place to manage all your online and in-person sales? That's kind of our thing. Wherever you sell, businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 a month trial at shopify.com/listen. Shopify.com/listen.